Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we've got another Start Collecting Age of Sigmar 3rd edition for you, and today we're going to be looking at the Start Collecting box for the Blades of Khorne faction called Daemons of Khorne. Now, this box set focuses heavily on, as you might expect by its name, the demon part of the faction. And so, first of all, let's talk a little bit about what exactly we get inside this box, and then we'll look at how we can expand our army with terrain and endless spells before moving on to other units and a little sample army list at the end. So, for starters, the first thing we get in this box set, you can see at the top left of the picture, we've got a Bloodthrone Skull Cannon kit. This can be built in a variety of different ways. First of all, you have the Bloodthrone. This is a Herald of Khorne that sits atop a cool looking skull chair chariot thing called a Bloodthrone. He's got some cool abilities where he extends the range of a bunch of his command abilities out, and he also has the ability to do some healing based on stuff he kills, and he does some mortal wounds in combat as well. He's got a 4-up save, 7 wounds, and bravery 10, which is pretty nice, so he's decently survivable for a Bloodletter hero. Nothing to write home about, but a solid character nonetheless. Now, if you choose to build the Skull Cannon, which is the other option within the box set, you will get that Herald of Khorne on foot as well. So the Herald of Khorne on foot is known as a Bloodmaster. Bloodmasters, once again, like all Bloodletters, have a decapitating blow ability, which allows them to do mortal wounds in close combat, but he also has the Blood Must Flow ability, where if he attacks, he can then pick a friendly Bloodletter unit near him to attack as well. And this is Bloodletter in keywords, so this means any unit with Bloodletters on it. So the Bloodletters on foot, and in fact everything inside this box set. Now, the Skull Cannon itself is a cornate piece of artillery. As you might guess, it shoots giant skulls at people. Now, the Burning Skulls has some pretty decent range and decent damage, and it does get bonuses to hit against larger units, and it's one of the few shooting pieces you'll actually get to use in a cornate army, so definitely something interesting and different from everything else in the range. We then look at the unit we've got at the front there, and the unit of Bloodletters. These are your baseline demons for the faction. Bloodletters do mortal wounds in combat. They're pretty solid fighters, 4s and 3s, Ren 1, Damage 1 with the ability for mortal wounds, and they also get to add some to their hit rolls if they're in larger units, though they do only have a 1-inch range, so you've got to sort of pair that off of, are large units really worth it, as you're not going to get as many into combat. Even though you're getting +1 to hit, you might not find it's worth the points spent there. Lastly, we've got the Cornate Cavalry you can see at the top right, and they are called Bloodcrushers. Bloodcrushers are Bloodletters on Juggernauts of Khorne, and they do some cool things. First of all, mortal wounds in combat like always with Bloodletters, but also Murderous Charge as well allows them to do mortal wounds when they hit your opponent's lines. As you can see, there's a lot of mortal wounds this army can put out, and all the models on the table here can put out, so it's definitely something of a strength of theirs. But with that said, let's go look at the terrain piece and the invocations. Though they're not necessarily the most important things to go pick up next, it's worth just having a look and knowing what you can grab for your Blades of Khorne army. So this is the Cornate scenery piece, the Skull Altar. Pretty simple here really for this. It's a cool little model, so it's defensible by a single hero with less than 8 wounds. Normally you would want this to be a Cornate Priest. You can reroll chanting rolls for friendly nearby priests. This includes obviously the model defending it as well, so once again this is why you want to put a priest in it. And enemy wizards are also -1 to cast when they're nearby the Skull Altar. This does everything you want it to do. It's a great scenery piece for the army. Reroll those chanting rolls is amazing, and don't forget this also works on your invocations as well, so some solid abilities there. So, looking at the endless spells, or rather the endless invocations. So, Khorne are one of the armies that has a endless spell counterpart, like many of the armies that use prayers a lot more than casters. Khorne has these things called invocations. Now, for starters, all the invocations here listed do move. They all move 8-inch, and they all count as having the fly keyword. Now, let's look into them in particular. First of all, we've got the Hex Gorgeous Skulls, so the 2 bleeding skulls. Enemy casters nearby them are -2 to cast, and in addition, should the caster ever roll an 8 to cast, and the spell automatically fail to cast, and the caster then will suffer d6 mortal wounds. We've got a battle report we linked up the top of the video. You can definitely go check out, because it certainly does happen to one of my wizards playing against my mate's Khorne. It's really cool. Bleeding icon then is the one on the left, the icon that's bleeding. Surprise, surprise. Enemy units near it are -1 bravery, and they should they fail a battle shock test near a bleeding icon, they'll lose additional models. Now, they generally lose D3 models each time this happens. However, if you roll a 6 on a dice you're rolling, you can instead lose D6 and the invocation disappears. The Invocation Wrath Axe is the last one, which you might guess is the giant axe. All models this invocation passes over, and a single unit within 3 inch at the end of this invocation's move, suffer D3 mortal wounds on the roll of a 1 to 5, or on the roll of a 6, one of them suffers D6 mortal wounds, and the invocation is removed once all its effects have been resolved. Some pretty cool abilities here, a good variation of adding some battle shock, making the cast. All of this is definitely stuff that you want your Khorne army to be doing. And so, where do we go next? We've taken a look at the Invocations, Endless Spells, whatever you want to call them, and our terrain piece, as well as the original Star Collecting box we're looking at, but where do we go next? Well, Fleshhounds are a great unit option. They have some cool abilities where they can reroll charges, so they're always a great unit to maybe have in your locker for if you want to do some summoning. The ability to reroll charge and have, deploy 9 inch away from your enemy units and get a rerollable charge without needing to have a character in the unit is nice, but they also have some abilities where they can help you stop your opponent's magic. The unit can attempt to unbind one spell in the enemy hero phase in the same manner as a wizard, and in addition you can attempt to dispel one endless spell at the start of your turn. You also add one to unbinding and dispelling rolls for this unit if it contains 10 or more models, so some decent abilities there. Grabbing some more of the generic demons in the first box set we got as well is great as well. Bloodcrushers and Bloodletters will definitely serve you well if you're looking to go for a Khorne demon heavy force, and they'll really start to bulk up your troops and give you more models on the table. Now, we do have access to a ton of named character variations of demons, and there's some really cool ones. First of all, you've got Scarbrand, who is a named character variation of the Bloodthirster. While he can't fly because his wings were ripped up as Khorne threw him away from his palace, Scarbrand is an absolute murder machine in combat. We then got things like Skulltaker, who is a Khornate Bloodletter hero, and then we've got Karanak, who is a Fleshhound hero. So we've got heroes for all our different variations of Khornate demons, which is really cool. While we're talking about this as well, it's worth having a look at our greater demon options as well, as while Scarbrand is a greater demon, we've also got the generic ones of all the different versions of the Bloodthirster. And the last unit, or units you might consider picking up, is looking at some of the Khornate mortals. In particular, the Khornate Priest will be a great addition to your army, able to do prayers on either demon or mortal units. Definitely be something to look into. You've also got other great mortal units. You've got Blood Warriors, Blood Reavers, your Skull Reapers, Wrathmongers, and all those other cool character models. Besides, definitely once you start to get your original demon collection up, it's worth having a look at the other half of the faction. And now that we've talked a little bit about where we can go with all the stuff from our army, it's worth having a look at a little sample army list we've put together here so we can sort of show off how you can use that original box set. Now, for starters, we've gone with a Bloodmaster Herald of Khorne on foot. He's going to be our general, and he's going to have the command trait and artifact that are required to be taken from the Slaughter Host Reapers of Vengeance. Now, we'll talk a little bit about what Reapers of Vengeance gives us. So, for starters, we're going to get the ability to do some really cool things with Reapers of Vengeance, like our command ability that's going to allow us to pick other demon units to pile in and fight alongside us, which is really cool. So you can use this command ability to start with the combat phase. If you do so, you pick one friendly Reapers of Vengeance demon unit holding within 8 inch of a friendly demon model with this command ability, and after that unit has fought in the combat phase for the first time, if it's within 3 inch of an enemy unit, it can immediately attack and pile in. So add this to the fact the Bloodmaster already is allowing us to pile in and fight with other units, we can really get some cool multiple pile-in attacks and really hammer home on some of our enemy's units. Also, if enemy units fail battle shock tests near any of our units, they'll suffer an extra D3 models fleeing. I think cool, which is nice and awesome. And then we're going to have the command trait and the artifact on our general here that are required to be taken. So first of all, we've got Mage Eater. This allows our general to dispel a spell, or unbind a spell rather, on like a normal wizard. And then in addition, if the general attempts to unbind a spell and the unmodifying roll is an 8, it's successfully unbound regardless of what our opponent rolled, and the caster will suffer D6 mortal wounds. We then have the Skull Shard Mantle, which allows him to ignore spells on a 2 up. Now, looking into the rest of the army list, we've gone with Skulltaker. He's a really cool model, I think, and also got some really fun abilities to play around with. But then we've got 10 Bloodletters, and 3 Bloodcrushers as our main battle line. These are all going to be units, probably pair them up with the Bloodmaster and Skulltaker there, and then we've got a Skull Cannon for some nice ranged artillery support, which will help us deal as well with some of our opponent's hordes, which generally is probably going to be the weak point of this force. We've gone for Grand Strategy Sever the Head, mostly because I think it's nice and thematic. It's always good to try and do things that are fun rather than picking some of the more boring ones. Trying to kill your opponent's characters is definitely something a Khornate army should be wanting to do. For our Triumph, we've got Bloodthirsty. Rerolls to charges are going to be really important for the army, and we're coming in a little shy at 720, which means we've got a good chance of getting it. The whole army wraps up in a Battle Regiment Corps Battalion, which is nice, so it makes the army 1 drop with 49 wounds and a decent amount of models on the table. If you've been playing with your Khorne demons and Khorne in general in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, let us know in the comments below how you've been going with them and what you've been doing. And also, if you've just picked up this box set, what are your plans for it? Let us know again in the comments below. Well, thank you all for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fun little community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the description of the video to our Discord server. We're always on there. There's always someone chatting. You can go on there and have a good time. Next up, if you'd like to help support the channel in another way, you can do so by following one of the links to Patreon, YouTube members, or following a link to our merch store on Teespring and grabbing some merch to help support the channel in that way. But also, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. So first of all, a big thank you to our Patreon members, Christian Weir, James, Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shop First, James Crowder, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, MJ, and Dynat226. And a special thank you as well to our YouTube members, Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zeop, Chris Wallace, Turai12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, Matt Mollum, Becky Kinsker Groupie, The Johnny84, and El Mapache. I'd also like to give a special shout out to Lady Witchfox Art, first of all, who does all the amazing artwork you see on the channel, and also to Xmorphic, who does an amazing job of running the Discord server and doing all the background work there for us. Thank you all for watching once again though. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.